Yo, what is good, my Goblin Slayers? Yo, oh my days, man. Holy crap, bro. Like, did anybody get in their feels when they started seeing everybody starting to work for Olga the Borga? Like, my God, bro. I was like, this man, Goblin Slayer, has picked the worst wifey of them all. This girl is so dang selfish, man. But I'm glad she was selfish because now it looks like we're really getting a good feel of just the field of how many people there are that actually probably been, tortured by goblins, and not only tortured but somewhat scarred by them and stuff like that. So it goes to show you that some people in this world are just like real life people when it comes down to things that they probably rather not remember. They probably rather not continuously bring up. And one of those things we see with the guy who looks like Guts pretty much in this week's episode. He's even using a guts like sword. But I think the funny thing about this guy is he's got his own like blonde haired like beauty and stuff like that. So to think that he and his blonde haired beauty are like both like these broken fighters because of I'm pretty sure they're silver rank just like him, like Goblin Slayer. Um, but the whole thing is when you see people like them going in, it kind of puts into perspective what could come to the future of this show. And I mean, I like the idea of having multiple characters like still being relevant. Because I mean, think about it. The only characters we really had was, Goblin Slayer, the Priestess, and then the other three people that joined later. But really, it was just Goblin Slayer and the Priestess, and the show was still fine. So it comes with this territory of when you make a show or when you make like certain characters be the front runners of your show, you kind of have to be in a perspective of what do the main characters bring to the table? What do these new characters bring to the table? And if they're all on the table at the same time, what can they all do for each other? And this week's episode was the pinnacle of pretty much us seeing Goblin Slayer getting the help that he himself probably never expected. Sure, he actually went into the Adventurer Guild to ask for this help, but there's no way in my mind that he thinks that every single adventurer is going to step up. Not to mention, the main reason why some of the stupider adventurers that just don't understand the type of danger that they're in right now, um, they needed even more incentives to join than most. And by getting that information or getting what they wanted, they're all down acting like as if they were always gonna like go out and help. So we're in a position now where we're gonna be seeing a whole lot of Goblin Slayer, getting a whole lot of attention from a lot of people. But this week's episode just goes to show us that Goblin Slayer is by far the top goblin like knowledgeable person in the whole entire adventurers group. He literally verbatim everything we watch this week's episode um, is somewhat a plan of his, besides maybe the hobgoblin part with having the adventurers going too far out in the woods to hunt down goblins. Um, which I think even that might have been a little bit of his plans just because of how I know how he gets down, like from previous episodes. And it could have been like just something implied, like, hey, if one gets away, goblins usually come back and they come back stronger, stuff like that. But it felt more like they were just feeling cocky, like they let down their guard. They're like, oh man, we're beating goblins left and right, and these guys ain't even putting up a fight, type of deal, and they let their guard down and they get mollywopped. So It's the classic make a dumb move and pay dearly for it type of deal, and it works out perfectly with, you know, not having any casualties would have been kind of unrealistic to just the goblin nature of being sly and like tricky. So I thought this was a good idea to at least make the hobgoblins like the final boss to the adventurers. I mean, even the Goblin Lord was feeling a little bit shaky, you know, like I thought it was hilarious to literally see this goblin giving all of these orders, and then all of a sudden when the getting gets bad, he is gone. He sent down his last little bit of army, and he's like, "All right, man, I'm running." But it makes sense. This is what goblins do. This is why this goblin exists. He clearly was probably a hobgoblin or you know, probably some other rank of a goblin, and because of his knowledge of humans and because of his ways of, you know, at least calling the shots. I mean, we even see him take out one of his own just out of complete anger of not being able to do what they were told, the goblins. So it's one of these things where they are relatively human. They do relatively get angry at things not working their way. They get scared when things are going badly. You know, all of these things are traits we see from humans every day in this show. Besides maybe like, no, we see everything in this show that the goblins done, the humans have done it too. So that's a cool like way to parallel just how close of a goblins and how close goblins are to humans, like parallel. So we get all of that, and the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, wow, they're going in on these goblins, hordes and hordes of them, and they're just destroying them, and it feels like there's something really missing, like some type of dark consequence, like I feel like with the girl from the farm being like so safe, you know, like she seemingly has nothing to worry about throughout this whole entire battle. Besides maybe these hobgoblins breaking in or throwing a human at freaking lightning speed or so. I don't even know how hard he or how fast he threw that human guy, but it was freaking fast, man. He flung that dude in the sense that it seemed like it could be a danger to people. You know, like it could have literally taken out somebody if that connected, and that's just one thing they can do. So I'm really just looking forward to what Goblin Slayer truly brings out further in the show because this felt like it's really hitting its strides, and this is episode 11. The last episode was like 11.5 or something along those lines. So we clearly didn't even get like a full on episode last week in the sense of it wasn't considered one, it was filler. It was literally not even really filler, it was an explanation, you know, so that wasn't anything to really bat an eye at. But the other part of it all was Goblin Slayer put together such a good plan that he didn't need to be there to give orders to um, you know, just be there in general. So, with that being said, it goes to show you just how much they actually trust in that plan. It goes to show you how well he knows how to handle even a hordes of goblins that came out with they came out with a tactic that he even saw coming, guys. He saw the goblins using human women, or yeah, mostly women, because they don't care to keep a man alive. Um, they'll cut off a man's ding-a-ding before they keep him alive, you know. So um, they kept these women alive as shields, literal shields, to protect the goblins. Like they just don't care. Um, Not to mention that they, you know, they're pretty much telling us that whatever we do, you know, they know that there's some things that we won't do. And that was shown as soon as these shields were shown. with these girls all beaten and battered, that there's no humans out there that were about to take the shot unless that was already their plan in general. Like, they're like, oh man, we're not supposed to take this shot regardless, you know, like that would make sense, but it almost felt as if they were stunned and they would not be able to take the shot regardless. So the goblins know something, like, you know, like the goblin lord, I feel like that's his type of tactic, you know. So it's interesting to me to see like this show pretty much go full circle in the sense of we learned so much about goblins with the Goblin Slayer. Now it's their turn to learn a lot about us, you know, and or to prove that they know a lot about us already. And that is exactly what they do with this week's episode, man. They just prove the point that there's not too many people that are gonna be getting away from them. Oh my god, I destroyed her fireball. That was sick. Um But yeah, I honestly love this episode because it finally gets back to what we missed a whole episode of just nothingness. We literally just went over what we had already knew. So it was nice to actually see something that we haven't seen before again. And by seeing all of it, we truly understand the Goblin Slayer's like true um like just how good he is at what he does. And to know that he is going against a Goblin Lord, it almost feels as if he's disrespecting it kind of in a way, unless he really thinks this was the best route to take. I mean, definitely the Goblin Lord let his guard down as did the humans at some points. So it kind of makes sense that he wanted that angle on them. But at the same time, for me, it feels like Goblin Slayer definitely has grudges, and he definitely will do something that maybe wasn't necessarily needed, in my opinion. Like, I don't think Goblin Slayer actually needed to go out of his way to do this. So for him to be doing it just goes to show you how much he really hates these people. And not only that, he knows that he's not a platinum. You know, like he's like, I'm not a platinum, so I'm not even. He's like, I'm not even a hero and all this stuff. So he kind of gave us a scaling of what the lords are supposed to be respected as, and that's a platinum adventurer level, and he's only silver, which is 2 levels under. So he clearly knew his own right, but at the same time, I think the only reason why this goblin was considered a lord was because of the army, because of the people he has to at his disposal, made him as scary as he was. Not so much that he, had crazy fighting prowess and he could take out 100 adventurers and stuff like that. Nah, it was definitely more the line of like, oh man, he has so many dang people that he is a force to be reckoned with. Like nothing, nothing too huge, in my opinion. So with seeing all that going down, it was funny to me to know that some of them just might not make it out of this, and some of the characters that I truly did not care for, I started to actually like. I actually wanted to see them, at least not die within this week's episode. The one time they help Goblin Slayer and get over talking trash about what he does and stuff, that's the same time they die. Like that would suck. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that some of these characters, now that we're getting to see their fighting style, getting to see just how they would stand up for like their own and stuff like that. I hope that this isn't the case for them to just be like, okay, well, you've seen that, now we can just kill them off, bye bye, and just end them. So we'll see. Goblin Slayer seemingly is pretty okay with watching people suffer. So, for instance, that one girl that she talks so slow. The girl who is like the magic caster, she talks slow like every time. Can I have some water? Like, girl, can you speak a little faster? Like, come on, we can get like 7 of your lines out of here and get to the next thing, but you over here talking all slow, trying to waste time. Um, but yeah, I honestly want to know where this is all really like headed, in my opinion, because at times it feels like you know what's going on, and then next thing you know, they just pull some crazy stuff out, and you're looking at, some characters that seemingly didn't seem strong, but like were all talk, and now you know they are strong, and that's why I say I don't want to see them get taken out because I feel like they could have better and bigger roles even later on in the series. So if that is the case, I hope they do get that opportunity. But if not, hopefully they go out like some bosses in these episodes. I mean, we have 1 episode left, and seemingly it's gonna be Goblin Slayer versus Goblin Lord. So I don't think the show could have made a better choice in, fighting for the Goblins. Slayer, excuse me, I just needed to hiccup. But I can't wait. This is something I can't like contain myself. I love knowing that we're about to just get some ridiculous action. Excuse me. Um, and while getting, oh my God, I didn't do the freaking roll. And while getting this action, we have a chance to see, even more characters that pretty much been talking themselves up more than anyone else has talked themselves up, like, or talked them up. So it's like they finally get to show why they think they're better than like Goblin Slayer and stuff like that. So I can't wait to actually see if they even are capable of holding off these hobgoblins. I mean, there's 2 champions that are there, and this supposedly the guy with the spear who's always been like really cocky. These are more his type of things that he fights. So uh, seemingly we're getting the overall like power of these people of the adventurers, and it really just comes down to the adventurers versus the goblins. And I thought that was a very smart tactic to pull by the author, because who would ever believe that the adventurers would actually find a reason to work with Goblin Slayer for all the times, Goblin Slayer's just sat outside, or, he's just sat around not saying anything so people, wouldn't even hear what he's up to, because they just don't care. How did that tail get me, bro? Come on now. So I just think this is another way of telling us, like, hey, Goblin Slayer's reputation has grown. People understand that Goblin Slayer is doing well. He's staying alive. He's literally still killing goblins every day, saving people. We know he saved the village of some of these adventurers, and not only did he save some of the adventurers, he also gave some of the adventurers tips um, to survive. Like, he gave tips to the kids that needed to go in and fight certain types of enemies that Goblin Slayer don't even fight. He just gave them an idea and they went with it. So it's stuff like that that puts Goblin Slayer above a lot of these characters, in my opinion, just as a person. So it's nice to see them like respect his information as much as they did this week, because he's the smartest when it comes down to goblins in our eyes. That we know he's the smartest guy out of all the adventurers, and well, in this town anyway. Maybe there's another town later on in the anime that shows us there's a guy that, or a girl that knows even more about them. So that's to be seen. I'm not sure if that's actually true or anything. I'm just saying, like, we can't write off um, other people knowing about goblins. Oh, that fool's limping. He'll be back. But yeah, my anime people, I'm gonna be dropping this video quite early compared to my next one. I'll be dropping Sword Art later today. I got some errands I gotta run. Christmas is around the corner and stuff like that, so you guys know how that is. Um, so I'm gonna do all that stuff. I just wanted to make sure I get at least one video out to you guys before I just like completely had to be busy for quite a bit. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for the support. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you slap a like or just drop a comment or share the video. It'll be greatly appreciated. And with that, I am the Anime G, and I will talk to you in the next one. Alright, peace.